thank Toby and the folks at PennDOT for taking the lead on this initiative and getting out there in front of the bus. This is something that we talk about the budget's getting tighter countywide. Well, the state budget's getting tight too, and these guys had the foresight and the thought out there ahead of time to put this project together and this study together. I also want to thank Carl Singleton, representing Harrisburg City, that's here today, because the city is a big player in what we're doing here in Dauphin County.
I'm Dave Kilmer. I'm the Executive Director of the South Central Transit Authority.
Hello, I'm Kevin Barnhart, Berks County Commissioner, also Chair of the South Central Transit Authority. If you're looking at anything such as this, maybe it's a small piece, maybe it's a larger piece, maybe it's 1 or 2 counties, maybe it's all 7, maybe it's all 9, is keeping an open mind. That's really very important to this whole process. Keep an open mind and always think about the customers. The number one issue for both counties when we sat down and talked about it, even from the beginning, when we appointed the committees, was it's all about the customer. If anybody loses service, if we cut back on services, it's not going to work. So keep those 2 things in mind, an open mind and the customers. Unfortunately, we at BARDA had Dennis Lewis as our executive director for well over 30-some years, and his untimely passing caused us to look at ourselves, and we were without an executive director. So we reached out to Lancaster, to Dave Kilmer, who actually was at BARDA in other capacities beforehand. So he was certainly very familiar with BARDA, helped us in a lot of ways, and was ultimately hired as executive director in Lancaster. So initially we tried to get him back to BARDA, but he was so happy in Lancaster County working for them that we couldn't yooks him away and bring him back to Berks County. So what we did is we went to them, to the Red Rose Authority, and asked for a management agreement for a 6-month period of time for BARDA to understand what our future was going to be, if we needed to have an executive director or we needed to go in a different direction. So they were very obliging. We entered into a agreement for 6 months, and it was actually financially supported by PennDOT, that we had Dave and his services through a technical assistance grant. So that went very smooth. Kind of a better thing that commissioners knew each other. So we decided, both sides, through Dave's leadership, to appoint 2 subcommittees. So I was on the subcommittee for BARDA with Tim Snyder. We also had an alternate, Mickey Roberg. And Red Rose had Jeff Wibberly, Jeff Willett, and June Wolf. So we met. We were under the impression, well, we came from the BARDA side. We were a 9-member board. Red Rose is a 9-member board. We came in order to take information back to the balance of our board. So that the 3 of us would meet with the 3 Red Rose folks, and we would take information back. First talks were very interesting. We went through the numbers. We crunched the numbers through Dave and his staff. We were able to find the cost savings necessary to make it palatable for the commissioners of both counties. Now, you understand that the savings, the local match that both Berks and Lancaster have achieved, our goal was to have that number match the local matches. And I think in Dave's later slide, it's well over $800,000 combined a year. We had members of our BARDA board who didn't think that was enough money. Now, for Reading and Berks County, it was over $500,000 in savings a year, but they weren't county commissioners. They didn't think, from a business perspective, it was enough savings, but they felt that if the Berks County Board of Commissioners felt it was enough money, they were okay with it. So we were not unanimous, our board was not unanimous, but eventually we were. We had an 8-to-1 vote, I think one dissenting vote, sorry. 7-1, and 1 gentleman wasn't there. And then Red Rose also voted in the affirmative to merge the agencies. A lot of it from the Board of Commissioners' perspective was the monetary savings. The emotional part of it from the boards, I know from the BARDA standpoint, we did eliminate positions in the management end. And that was some difficult times. We had people that were there for a few years, up to 35 years. But we looked at the duplication of HR, of accounting and things like that, and we found ways to save money. So both boards had their votes, and then of course was put to the vote of both the boards of Lancaster County Commissioners and Berks County Commissioners, and we were successful. That took an awful lot of legal effort, a lot of paperwork. Dave forgot his loose leaf binder When we had our joint meetings, we had binders this thick of data and information to help us make our decisions. We didn't take it lightly, but I think from my perspective, I think it was much easier because we were two similar agencies. Just about the same number of buses, about the same number of paratransit vehicles, literally the same number of employees, literally the same budget numbers. So it was easy to merge two strong agencies. Certainly concentrated on the true savings. Some folks on our board felt that, well, are these realistic numbers? Are these numbers of combining HR, combining IT, combining accounting firms, parts inventory, are these real numbers? Well, we had to prove those to PennDOT. We had to justify those, that they were going to be true savings in order to save the local match. And of course, there were people on our board who felt that the loss of influence of being a BARDA board member. What we did decide, and it was relatively easy, and I did joke about the logo, that was probably the most difficult thing to do. At one of our joint meetings of the subcommittee, we decided on 5 people from Berks and 5 people from Lancaster. Now, keep in mind, our authorities were 9 and 9, so we were going to shrink it down to 5 members from each. So we put out a letter to our members requesting that they wanted to stay on. If we go through with South Central Transit Authority, do you want to stay on as a member of South Central? And luckily on the Berks County side, we had 5 people who said yes and 4 people who said no. So it was pretty easy to scale back to 5 people. No county has an authority over the other. There's always 5 members from each county. And we also decided that the chair would be from one county, the vice chair would be from another county, the treasurer would be from one county, the secretary would be from another county. So I want to emphasize that it was a partnership created by trusting each other and keeping an open mind. And I'll tell you, we had some great times. We'd go down to Lancaster, they'd come up to Reading, and we'd talk for an hour and a half, 2 hours, work through the details with Barbara Gannon at a couple points, Dave Kilmer, and then we'd go out for wings and something to drink, just to build up that camaraderie that, hey, we're all in this together. And the bottom line is it's about the customers, and it's about the local match for the counties, and everything really worked out for us. So through our loss of Dennis LaWerse and his passing, and I guess the gods were looking down on us, and politically, we didn't receive a lot of negative feedback from our local constituents in Berks County. I think we kept it out there in the public enough, we put it in the news media enough that they understood that everyone talks about regionalization and consolidation and government being more efficient. And I think with Berks and Lancaster coming together through mass transit really proved the point that it doesn't just have to happen in your townships or boroughs or your city or your county. It can cross county lines. Just to show the harmony between the 2 counties, we put up a tent as close to the county line as possible on 222 in early December to have our first joint meeting, our first meeting of South Central Transit Authority, and it was cold. They had space heaters in there, and it was a horrible, horrific accident out on 222 North, but the food was great, and we really have had a great relationship. I consider the members of the South Central Transit Authority Board, who were Red Rose members, friends of mine. Now, one of the things we couldn't do, and Dave will touch on this, we didn't have a pure 100% consolidation. It's a management agency overseeing both BARDA and Red Rose, and he'll get into those details. So what we had to do is formulate not just the board of 10, South Central, but we still have an existing BARDA board of 5, an existing board of Red Rose of 5, and we're all kind of the same people. So we meet every month for South Central, we meet every other month as BARDA, and every other month as Red Rose, and we alternate locations. Lancaster, Berks, and it's only a half-hour drive for either of us. So because we're 30-some miles apart, we couldn't really shut down one of our depots for maintenance or equipment. Certainly if we were a few miles apart, we could have found some real cost savings in facilities. But what we really saved is the management component to the tune of over $800,000 a year. We met our goals, we met our expectations, and I tell you, it really worked out real well.
Because they're still considered 2 separate urbanized areas by the Federal Transit Administration. So the money coming into both of those urbanized areas has to be spent within those urbanized areas. Because one of the things we wanted to make sure both boards understood, this wasn't a money grab type of thing where the board at Red Rose said, oh, BARDA has money, so we can get their money, or BARDA saw that Red Rose had money, we can get theirs. That was, I think that was very comforting for both boards to know that the money coming in had to stay there.
We'll get a letter drafted and get it out this week to every party and ask them to respond back to us. We'll even give you a form to fill out. You know, you can respond back to us with and identify up to 2 people to move ahead, and then we can sit down and have that critical issues discussion.
There could be counties on the fence. They don't know. It depends on the answers to their important questions. So
That's where you
have
get
a
these-
maybe category that they may want to participate in the next round of discussion.
That's where
Is
you,
that-
on this step is where you get those answers to those questions. This isn't a decision to move ahead with consolidation. This is a decision that, yes, we're interested, but we need more information. We need to get some more questions answered. Under certain conditions, we would consider it. And then that's what this next step is. It's not a decision to consolidate at this point. We will send it to every county who's participated in this study up to this point. And if there's interest in Lancaster and Berks and Schuylkill, because I think the Dauphin County Commissioner said they would reach out to them, I'm glad to send out letters to them to see if they're interested in participating in this particular discussion.